It doesn't feel like this is a different world anymore. It feels like my world and this world is one and the same, kind of.
MetaStudio is a curriculum change in the interior design department at VCUArts Qatar, where 3 sophomore classes, Design Studio, Materials, and Graphics, were amalgamated into one studio. And the basic idea was, how do we turn good students into good designers? Research has shown us that students grappled with 3 major interrelated challenges. Complexity tends to be complicatedness, knowledge building tends to be siloed, and there are deficiencies in critical thinking. MetaStudio progresses from intense tool building to successfully pull back pedagogical scaffolding while increasing complexity.
Using precedent studies, there are more prototyping tools, there are a variety of those. The laser cutting, the 3D printing, that's an exciting new tool for me. Working in the wood shop.
Call me Donna the Butcher, and it was because I use scrap pieces and I use papers to deliver an idea and to understand my project more. Others used digital tools more.
The last 30 years have seen the toolbox for designers grow immensely. We now have a new array of traditional and newer tools to generate, present, and execute design. The question then is, how do we educate our students to select the proper tool for the task?
Started out, first of all, the projects that we're going to cover, and we correlated them with themes of the week that we're going to have during the entire semester. So in a sense, it was more project-driven.
I think of meta-literacy as an overarching framework, and that comes into play in the academic environment, in the art studio, in the art classrooms, in terms of production.
With MetaStudio, all the courses kind of made sense together.
Students are dealing with 3 courses, with 3 professors, and then one module would inform the second one.
In education, things are siloed, and in industry it's not. You have teams who are working together closely, collaborating all the time.
It's very common for design institutions to be structured around disciplinary or some would call subdisciplinary departments. Finding open time where we can kind of either join classes or create classes can sometimes be hard.
Libraries are very sort of linear, and libraries work with categories and classification. Designers don't necessarily work that way.
Formation of the Meta team was very important for setting up MetaStudio. It was about pooling the expertise we already have on campus together. The Writing Center, Library, Materials Library, Painting and Printmaking, Graphic Design, and Fabrication Woodshop.
The library was able to offer some unique perspectives on how students sort of process and discover information.
The Writing Center was one of several teams that came together for this project.
It was a collaboration between the MetaStudio and the Typography 2 class.
So some say that form actually follows function, and some say that if the form follows function, it's a weak point.
Writing is about thinking, and we focused on the thinking, as well as helps the student learn to reflect.
Yet you could potentially eat on your coffee table and study on your dining table. I feel that example is where I was like, okay, that's what you mean.
It's up to you now to interpret this movie from a design perspective. When you're in a wheelchair, you have certain capabilities. We can really see that these become forces of how you act in the world.
Reading about how people talked about design and architecture and like interior design in a much more like free way, I guess, was very eye-opening for me.
The idea of repetition is not new, it's ancient. It's tied to memorization, it has to do with cognitive psychology.
It's very important for us in MetaStudio to adopt a cyclical approach in learning. This constituted returning to the same object in a cyclical manner while increasing complexity and scale of that object.
Repetition, not necessarily of the course materials, the readings that had been assigned, but the tools, the deep thinking, the relating.
The MetaStudio started with heavy scaffolding and explicit instruction. Gradually, that was removed and decreased. By the end of the studio, students had to negotiate their own way.
In terms of the quality of the work and how in-depth it was, unprecedented in previous years.
It really helped me to look at my project more in depth and really understand the kind of space I'm creating or the kind of feel I'm creating.
Meta Studio helped us a lot this year in thinking differently and looking at projects from a different perspective.
I see that that's the direction that design is going in general.
Basically, each person's method was embraced.
The book can be like a really great forum for kind of reflecting on a project, articulating its significance after the fact.
To make my own art, to make my own diagrams in the book and not just take pictures like ready-made pictures or internet pictures. I also added a seminar section or kind of a break at the end of each chapter, which I talk about topics that we discussed in our seminars.
These books are being put in, again into the library's physical collection for perpetuity. They'll be here always for future students and community. Anyone who wants to see them can access them. And so the students saw their own work in a less abstract way. They really could see their role as a contributor to scholarship. The books were spectacular. They were remarkable. Truly, truly high standard.
After running Meta Studio for 2 years, what are some of the conclusions? Albeit some initial challenges, we found the overall results were very positive. Portfolio reviews, testimonials from external critics, and feedback from the Meta team have shown Meta Studio indeed helps students cope with the 3 challenges of complexity, pedagogical silos, and critical thinking. The first generation of Meta students have now completed their 2nd year and show continued growth and Meta proficiency.